Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. I'm Papa Boris, and in this video we're going to show you how to play a new game. This is called Thea the Awakening. If you've never heard of this game before, it's like a cross between Civilization and Heroes of Might and Magic and a roguelike. It's a really original game. I haven't played any other game quite like it. It's incredibly complicated, so I'm going to take a different approach to this game than I normally do. Here we're just going to jump into some gameplay, and I'll show you how the mechanics of the game will work, and then in the next video we'll actually start a new game from scratch, because there's a whole lot to talk about when you're setting up a new game. But alright, here we are in the world of Thea. There is actually a story. Somebody, turned out the lights and it was dark for a long time and all the gods were sad, blah, blah, blah. You can read it. It's kind of cool. Who cares? The point is, we have a village. It's called Ostoya, and it's always called this in every game, although you can change the names of anything if you'd like. We can actually go ahead and change this now by clicking on the, well, I actually don't know what you click to change the name, but you can, oh, right here, yes, this little quill. Yeah, how would we call this? Borestinia town. So, you can change all the names, it's cool. In the village, we can see an interface that might seem a little bit familiar to you if you've played a game like Civilization, where, there's stuff that you can gather, there's stuff that you can craft, and there may be buildings that you can construct. On the overworld, you can press this button down here to see where the resources are. This is very Civilization-esque, so you can see in our starting area here, there's wood growing in a lot of places. We got vegetables and wood directly accessible by our village. We got herbs over here, some vegetables over here, some more wood, and of course we can find other resources as we go out exploring. Now, one major difference between this game and your Civilization games is that in this game you only ever have the one village. So this is not going to be a sprawling civilization to take the test of time. You don't take the test of time. Like, all right, it's time. Everybody come here, take your test. No, to stand. There it is. Stand the test of time. You just have like one mangy gathering of like huddled, desperate, scared villagers trying to survive in an extremely hostile wilderness. Now you can make expeditions of people to go out and try to, find some treasures in the lands and go on quests and things. So we got this little sign right here. This is the expedition. This is bravely called Expedition 1. Of course, we'll go ahead and change that name here. The Stromongthongers. Okay, Stromongtho is all that fits, so that's what it is. Yes, it's the Stromongtho expedition. You can make as many of these as you want, although you can totally win the game just ever having the one expedition going around and coming back to the village as necessary to refuel and drop off their filthy loots. Okay, let's go back to the village interface for just a little bit and see what else is going on here. So we got vegetable and wood growing near this village, which means that we can harvest them. I'm going to go ahead and pull off my harvesters for the time being to see how this works. So vegetables require 60 units of gathering in order to harvest. And over here, you actually see how many you get whenever you complete the pack. So 60 gathering resources does not give you one vegetable, it actually gives you 14. Wood also requires 60 gathering points to gather, but you only get 7 wood per pack. So over here we can see who my gatherers are. The basket is the gathering skill. Anyone who doesn't have the basket sucks at gathering. Like Milosh here, if I set him to gathering vegetables, this dude's only bringing in 5 out of 60, and it's going to take him 12 turns to get the job done. This guy's pathetic. Definitely not going to have him do any of that. Everything that does have a basket with a number, that is a multiple of 10. So, I love all these, like, Polish names. Wosicha is a pretty potent gatherer. She actually makes 60 units per turn. So, I set her to the task of gathering vegetables. She's going to bring in 1 package every turn. So that's great. I'm going to be getting 14 vegetables per turn as long as the vociferous Wosicha is on the task. Now, Tomko Truck here is not quite as good at gathering. He's only got 4 gathering skills, so he's only going to get 40 out of the 60 per turn. It's going to take him 2 turns to bring in a stack of wood. Now, any extra does roll over, so he's going to get 40 after turn 1, then he gets 40 on turn 2. That puts us to 80. So what's going to happen is that'll give me 1 stack of wood, and then I'll be at 20 out of 60. So it's only going to take 1 turn after that for me to get my next stack of wood. Now I've got another lady, Cheslava, here. She's a really big fan of chess, and she can actually craft, that's the hammer symbol, and gather. So if I don't have any crafting task for her, I can go ahead and add her as a helper to this wood task. Now you might think, well, hang on, 4 plus 2 is 6, 60, so we're going to get this stack of wood in one turn, right? Nope, wrong. Helpers only add half of their gathering skill. And the game automatically puts the best gatherer up front. So if I were to add the vociferous Phociha to here, notice she'd go whoop right to the front. So the game ensures efficiency for you by always putting the person with the highest gathering skill at the front so that their skill is not cut in half and is maximized. So here we go. This is how I could set up my town. So I'm bringing in vegetables every turn and wood. Well, most turns. Not the first turn, but most turns after that, because of spillover carrying over, I'll be getting a wood per turn, or a pack of wood per turn. Now let's take a look at the crafting side of things. Now crafting in this game is really interesting. You don't start off being able to craft a whole lot. If there's a red bar around something, that means you just can't craft it at all. Let's take a look at clothes, which I can craft. Notice here, it's quite confusing looking. You actually have quite a variety of options for how you want to craft stuff. So I can, as a primary material, use either string or leather. I also have to add a secondary material, which is string or leather or a gem of some kind. And then I need a catalyst, string or leather. And there's the numbers here which tell you how many you need if you're going to use that slot. So for example, I can make some clothes by putting 4 string there, 4 string there, and using 2 string as a catalyst. This would make me a plain shirt, which provides armor 2. And even if you've never played this game before, you can probably guess armor 2 sucks a big dong. It's barely even worth making. Now, when you look up here, you see what you get for this. So the hammer symbol indicates how many crafting points will be needed to make this thing. This indicates the weight of the item. This is like a drawstring bag of rocks. Oh, no, sorry, that's pack size. That's not weight. Weight is up here, right here. This the measuring gram. That's 16 pounds is how much a plain shirt wears. It's actually a pretty heavy plain shirt. This is pack size. This is how many you get. So you get 1 plain shirt by doing this recipe. And the flask here is how many research points you get. Now, we'll talk about research in a moment. But suffice it to say that research points are needed in order to create new advances in your tech tree. Unlike Civilization and other games, you don't just get research points for sitting around. You don't have, like, science coming in every turn. You have to go out and kill mobs, kill nests, beat quests to get research points, or build gear. This plain shirt is so shitty, I don't even get any research points at all for making it because it sucks so bad. Now, I could, instead of using string as a primary material, I could use leather. And if I use leather, notice it changes. Now I do get a science point for making this thing. It weighs a little more. Still only gives me 2 armor, though, but it gives me a flask point, so it's a little bit different. And if I actually also use leather as my secondary material, it changes even more. Now I get armor 3 and dexterity 1 for this shirt. So this is quite a bit better than the first shirt that I was going to make. And what's interesting here is that in this game, if I want to make better clothes, there's no, like, tech tree advancement for better clothes. It's just clothes. Like, this is it. Like, this recipe lets me make all the clothes in the world, but I can put stuff here that's better versions of leather and string. So if I were to put, like, you know, dragon leather in here and, like, spider silk in here, then I'd get an even better shirt. It would have even better stats and even better secondary properties. So as you go around the game and you gather or find increasingly rare materials, you can put them into the same old recipes and experiment around and see what you get, because you can get better stuff out of the same recipe if you put in better ingredients. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the catalyst here. The catalyst doesn't affect the quality of the item you make at all. This is just resources that are lost, which is the exact definition of what a catalyst isn't, but never mind, this isn't science class. The point is, always put your crappiest stuff in the catalyst, because that just doesn't make any difference whatsoever. There's also cooked meals over here. So for cooking, you can turn your food into other food. And this is a fairly important part. I do end up doing a lot of cooking in this game. Basically, the way that food works is everybody needs to eat a little bit of food. Well, not a little bit. 1 piece of food every turn. All your villagers eat 1 food per turn a piece. And if you have lots of different types of food that are available to eat, your villagers can get bonuses, which I'll show you later on. So I can take this meat and I can make it into jerky. And what's interesting here is that I'm spending 4 meat but I'm actually getting a pack size of 8. I'm getting 8 pieces of jerky back. So somehow I'm managing to create more food than I put in. It's a violation of the law of conservation of mass, but whatever, we're not talking about that. The point is, cooking food is very good because it allows you to essentially multiply how much food you have, and it gives you different types of food. So now I'd have meat and jerky, so my villagers would get a bonus because they're eating 2 types of things rather than 1. And with this, as with the clothes, you can experiment by putting lots of different things as a primary material and lots of different things as a secondary material. Again, the catalyst makes no difference, but what you put in primary and secondary changes what you make. So with meat and meat, I get jerky. With meat and herbs, I get meat stew. Now, for this, it's always going to be 8 units of the food. So all that it really provides value for is turning your raw ingredients and multiplying them into packs of 8 rather than packs of 4. And it gives you different things so that you can eat more different types of food and give your villagers better bonuses. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Why don't we make some jerky, huh? So now we've got this task I've created. I want to make jerky. I don't have anyone on it. Well, we'll go ahead and put Milosh on this. And this works very similarly to gathering. If you have a craft skill of 6 that produces 60 crafting points, and this tells you how many crafting points you need. Only 44 are needed, so Milosh here, my boy, he's going to get this done in 1 turn. You can click the plus and minus buttons here to increase how many times you want to make the jerky. So if I want to make like 10 stacks of jerky, I don't have to keep on remaking the task. I can just go blip, 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 blip. And down here you can see how many resources it's going to take you. So the game's actually going to let me keep on cranking out this recipe, but it's letting me know like, hey, you are going to run out of wood like right away unless you get some more wood. So it's kind of nice. You can see how much of your stuff you're using here. I'm honestly probably not going to... whatever, screw it. We'll just leave it at 10 for now. So it's going to take me 8 turns to create these 10 jerky stacks. And the reason it takes less than 10 turns is because, again, extra crafting points spill over. So these extra 16 points that I will have will spill over and help me make my next batch of jerky. Construction works the same as crafting. The only difference is that you're making buildings which permanently affect the village rather than making items for your villagers to use. You can see I cannot make a pasture right now, so I'm not going to bother with it. But buildings provide minor bonuses to your village. They can also attract. They can have the attract feature, which basically produces a small chance each turn that somebody new will join your village, which is really good because having lots of people is really good. So you'll eventually want to make some buildings. I just don't have like nearly enough resources. It takes a lot of resources to make a building, so I cannot do that just yet. Okay, so that's the production side of things. Also in your village menu, you can take a look at the inventory. So this shows you what stuff you have. So there are different tabs here. This is the everything tab. We can also show our weapons, what weapons we've got, and armor. We'll talk about that later. You can see what food on hand. So this is just the first turn of the game, so everyone's just got a pile of meat, nothing else. You can see your crafting resources and your people. And you can freely move people around. So if I wanted to move Miroslav back to the village to keep guard, I could do that very easily. Or I can be like, no, Miroslav, you're going out with the Stromongtho, there we go, and I'll just move him back here. You might have noticed there are these children here. Basically, every turn, there's a small percentage that a child will grow up into an adult instantly, and you'll have an extra villager. This can happen on, like, turn 2 of the game, where it can happen never. So it's a little bit random, but I think the more children that you have, the more likely it is that some of them, at least, will grow up into adults and give you extra villagers, so children are a good thing to have. Okay, there's the equipment field where you can equip stuff. If your expedition is in your village, you can use these to cycle back and forth between the village people. That's a band! And the expedition and equip their stuff. What's kind of annoying is if you're like, I don't want this shield in my expedition, I want it in the village, you actually can't move it from this tab. You have to go to the inventory tab, go to the weapons, and then move it over here. You cannot swap things back and forth in the equipment screen, which is a little bit weird, but whatever. Now, a very important tab is the Manage Supplies tab. So here, you can see what the bonuses are for the different food varieties that you're carrying. So at 1, there's no bonus. Well, the bonus is you're not starving and losing health every turn. Yay. If you're eating 2 different kinds of food, you get +1 health to everybody in the party. You get +1 will, +1 shielding, and +1 dexterity at 4 different types of food. 5 is an important breakpoint. Your expedition gets 1 extra movement point, and then you can see there's more bonuses up to a maximum of 10 different food varieties will give you a bonus. So at that point, you'll have, 2 extra movement points and a whole shit ton of health and more damage, all this stuff. You can see this game is a little bit complicated. There's all these different stats that do different things. We'll talk about that later on. And that's it for our village screen, so let's close that out. This button here toggles between your village and any expeditions that you may have. So over here, it's kind of cool. You can actually see some information about your expedition. So this expedition has 8 turns worth of food. They have 4 to 5 movement points. Tells you how many people they have. Weight's important. Obviously, you don't want your expedition to be overburdened. I got plenty of spare weight, though. And this little symbol, fuel, is actually kind of important to mention. I really should mention this here. I forgot to. So in managed supplies, basically, we are going to say that this village can burn fuel, wood, regular wood for fuel. I don't want to burn dryad wood or what is this, dark wood for fuel, because those are very special types of resources, but I'll burn regular wood because that's cheap and abundant. Basically, when you burn fuel, it enables things to work as they're supposed to. If you don't burn fuel, then nobody heals, and all of your crafting and gathering is at half value, so that's bad. Now, my expedition, I'm not going to take any wood with me because I don't have very much regular wood to give them. And for the expedition, they don't use fuel unless you go camping. So your expedition, if you want to, like, harvest stuff, so like if I wanted to go out and harvest these herbs with my expedition, I could set up camp in any tile adjacent to this tile or this tile itself, and then I could, use the gathering skills of the people in the expedition to gather the herbs. But then I'd have to burn fuel in order to actually gather at my ability rather than gathering at half, which is really, really terrible. However, my expedition doesn't have any crafters in it or gatherers, so I'm not going to be doing any gathering, so I'm not going to bring any fuel with my expedition, at least for the time being. This button here takes you to your village. This button here allows you to rename stuff, open the game log. Yes, renaming stuff is up here, although they both use the quill. I was justifiably confused, so you can see the game log, which tells you what happens, blah, 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 who cares. And then finally over here, the flask. So let's talk about research points. Here you see your progress. So I'm at 2 research points out of 2 research points out of 13. So when I get up to 13, I'll get another, let's call it an advancement point, a point I can actually spend in my tech tree. And remember, you don't get research points coming in every turn. You have to actually like beat something or craft something in order to get one of these points. Over here, we'll take a look at our tech tree. Whenever you have an advancement point to spend, you can spend it in something in the tree. And there's 3 different tabs of the tree. There's the gathering tab, the crafting tab, the construction tab, and you don't get a point in each of the tabs. You just get 1 point to spend somewhere. And so if I were to, for example, spend my points to confirm research on this watchtower, then that's it. I wouldn't have any more points. So let's talk about each of these tabs. Construction is the easiest. This lets you build new buildings. All right, that's a piece of cake. Buildings typically have fairly minor bonuses. For most people, you're going to want to build this cabbage patch, which gives you a chance of finding babies, and it can also attract people to the village who are already grown up. So that's obviously nice, and a lot of people just build tons of cabbage patches to get more people. You really can just ignore other buildings if you're feeling overwhelmed and want to reduce your overload during the game. The crafting tab allows you to research things to create with your crafters. So I can research, for example, staves or bows or jewelry or different types of meals here, roasted meals and cooked meals, or not roasted meals, baked meals. We start with cooked meals and we can get roasted and baked. That sounds like we're all going to go on drugs. Anyway, the thing in this game is, like I said, there's no like advanced swords. These are one-handed swords, and if you have these researched, you can then get two-handed swords. But, like, if I want to make better one-handed swords, there's no, like, super one-handed swords spot in the tech tree. I just put better resources in here. Like, instead of putting in iron, I can put in steel or silver or gold or mithril, and that will make my sword better than if I had used iron. Instead of putting, leather, I can put in scaled leather or fur leather or dragon leather, and that would make it better. And again, the catalysts don't make any difference. So you're really going to be pressed for research points. It's hard to have all the research points, so you have to choose carefully what it is you want to get. All these different weapons have different properties: swords, axes, bows, bludgeoning weapons, clubs and warhammers, and then the stabs and the pikes. They all have different traits. So I'll talk about that when we get into combat, so you'll be able to see it. Here's the armor tree where you have light, medium, heavy armor, and this is the shield spot. So you have to be careful. You got to pick and choose what you get because you're not going to be able to get it all. Now, the most interesting tab here is the Gathering tab. So in the Gathering tab is where you can actually unlock new resources. When you research or spend an advancement point on a new resource, a couple of things happen. Number one, from that point forward, you can find that resource on the map. Like, there could be silver shoved straight up my ass, and I would have no idea until I researched silver, and then it'd be like, hey, there's silver right in your ass. Like, and now you can have your gatherers go over there and pick it up. The other thing that you get, and this is kind of cool, I don't know how this makes any sense whatsoever, but when you research one of these resources, you actually get 5 units of it right away. So if I research silver, I will actually get 5 units of silver to use right off the bat, which is, pretty cool. So sometimes you'll do it just for the 5 units if you need it for a really cool recipe, and sometimes you'll use it because you actually want to go find more of it out in the world. In fact, I'm not saying this is a good move by any means, but just to show you some more of the game's mechanics, we're going to go ahead and research silver here. This will give me 5 units, and will let me see where it is on the map. So boom, I used my advancement point. I don't have any more until I get up to 13. When you research a new resource material, you'll also see this icon up here. So you can click on it, and it'll show you where the silver is. Wow, that's... I don't even know where this is. That is the most unhelpful I have ever seen. Okay, can we figure out how this is? Okay, watch closely, everybody. Hup. Okay, I think that went northeast. I think it went northeast. Nope. Wow. Okay, can we try again? Is it south? Is it south of me? Nope. Is it west of me? Okay, yeah. There are going to be times where it is right where you are, and there are going to be times where you have absolutely no idea where it is because the world is pretty big. Okay, so, sometimes you can get lucky, and it's right there. Other times you don't. And who knows, maybe there is going to be silver out here somewhere, and the game just didn't show it to me for some reason. So let's right-click on this to get rid of that, because that's totally useless. But okay, I do have 5 units of silver now. So I'm going to go here. We're going to go to the crafting area. And now that I have silver, actually, this used to be red. It's not red anymore. I can make a craft tool. As you can imagine, craft tools allow you to... Or not allow you to. They improve your crafting ability by some amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, let's put some silver in here. Let's put some dryad wood in here. And for my catalyst, which makes no difference, I'd like to use regular wood, but I can't at the moment because I'm making this jerky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this task. And instead I'm going to use my wood here as a catalyst. I don't want to waste my fancy wood as a catalyst since it makes no difference. So here it is. If I use dryad, which is actually a pretty advanced resource, you start with some number of advanced resources early on. It's a little bit random what you get at the start. So I happen to have some dryad wood. I'll make a pretty damn good set of craft tools. Look at this. It's going to give me 12 flask points. That'll actually give me another research point right away because I'm already at 2 out of 13. I get one of them. It weighs 52 pounds, and it costs 228 crafting points to make. So it's quite a project. If I used dark wood instead of dryad wood, it would actually weigh a little more. It would give me a smaller number of flask points, and it would take a smaller number of production points. So we'll go ahead and use the thing that gives me more flask points because I love science. And obviously, if I use regular wood here, it wouldn't be as good. In fact, let's do it. I'll show you what happens if I put regular wood here, and I use dryad wood as a catalyst because I'm a moron. Then it only gives me craft 3 because silver's pulling its weight, but the wood is just obviously not as good. So let's go ahead and start this project. All right, this takes 228 points, which is kind of a lot of points. So it's going to take this guy 4 turns to make it, but I want to get to crafting as quickly as I can. So let's go ahead and put this lady, Cheslava, who used to be helping Tomka Truck gather wood. Let's just put her over here, and I think this will be 25 points that she adds, yeah, from 60 to 85. So it's going to take only 3 turns with her help to produce these craft tools, and then we'll be able to equip one of our crafters with them and make things stronger, better, and also faster. All right, so that's, not necessarily a smart move, but I just wanted to show you what kinds of things you could do in this game. Okay, so it's still the first turn. Let's go ahead and actually take our expedition out for a spin. When you actually go out into the world, you're going to find the world is filled with nests and lairs of monsters who want to kill you. And you can, destroy the nests to stop monsters from spawning there, at least until a new nest appears. There are also these treasure sites. One lucky thing for this particular start and I should have mentioned this, the game is randomly generated, just like in Civilization. It's just totally random at the start, so you get all kinds of different things that can happen to you in the beginning. These places are pretty good. They typically have pretty decent treasure. You might have to fight some things sometimes, but that's fine. You get some pretty good treasure, so they're good to check out. And it's cool that I got 3 just like within view of my starting village. And if you're wondering like where else to go, look for pointy things in the fog. It's like that's a thing, and this is probably some kind of monster lair. There's a few pointy things here. There's a pointy thing over there. So maybe we'll go up here, check out this monster nest, which is what that probably is. Swoop back to this treasure. Grab this treasure maybe, and we'll see how we're doing for time. I might stop by the village to pick up some food, or I might just head on down here and get all this pointy stuff. So we click on our expedition, click the move button, and let's go over here. It'll take 3 movement points to get there, to either place. Okay, so we'll go there. All right, and now when you're standing in a spot that has something you can do, this question mark will light up. So let's go ahead and do it. So we search the location. We stumble across some ruins of an old city engulfed in mist and mystery. It's always the same thing. And note, I'm not going to be reading all the text. Don't worry, I just read that because it was extra special to me. You'll notice 4 options aren't available. Depending on the skills possessed by your party mates, you may be able to do fancy things here. And sometimes these are pretty complicated things that you need to have. The prerequisites are all very mysterious in this game. But for the most part, you'll just be searching. So we go in here. And oh my gosh, we're attacked by some bats. Well, that's good because I did want to show you how combat works in this game. At the beginning of a fight, you see what's attacking you. So here we got 4 deformed bats and 3 hulking rats. Not to be confused with hulking bats and deformed rats, or ratty hulks. And anyway, we're gonna go ahead and begin the combat. At the start of combat, you will get dealt your villagers split half and half between like the offensive hand and the tactical hand. So let me explain what the difference is. When the offensive hand comes into the fighting field, they can attack the same turn, or they can attack in the first round of combat. If you place someone from your tactical hand onto the fighting field, they'll have summoning sickness, essentially, for all you magic players, and they won't be able to attack until the second round. So that kind of sucks. So what's the advantage? Well, the tactical hand has tactics they can use. Everybody has a bajillion different stats, and the stats that you have determine what it is that you're allowed to do in combat. So this guy has quite a few stats. He can shield people, he can confuse the enemy, he can give an ally a first action, so move them to the front of the attack order. This guy can counter tactics, he can confuse people. This guy can confuse people or put a shield on people. You know, what people are able to do depends on the equipment that they're wearing and the stats that are innate to their character. So what happened here is I got my medic, who has only 8 armor, and she's got a pretty high attack, but she's only got 8 armor. I don't exactly want to throw her to the front lines. And my big shieldy dudes, the guys who have a lot of shielding, they're in my tactical hand. So I don't like this. I'm not happy with the fact that they ended up in the tactical hand and these guys ended up in the offensive hand. Well, that's fine. If you're not happy with what you got, you can reshuffle. And the reshuffling did absolutely nothing this time. I don't know what the odds of that are, but it happened. So if the reshuffle doesn't do anything for you, then you just have to keep it. So we keep and we play. And now we get to the Combat Minigame, which is quite an interesting game, I think. This is pretty novel. I've never really played any other game that was like this. So what happens is one side is randomly chosen to go first. In this case, the opponent was chosen to go first at random, and they play a card. When you play a card you can play like one of your offensive cards, in which case it just goes onto the board, or you can play one of your tactical cards. You can put them into the board by using the get closer action, or you can do some kind of a tactic with them. And then it passes to the opponent. Now, how many cards you get to play is somewhat random. Here, I'm able to play, as you can see, 2 cards right now, because of that number 2 right there. It might have just been 1. It's slightly random how many cards you're going to get to play. Cards that are played onto the board go from left to right. So if I were to play a character, it would go to the right of this bat. Like Aga would go to the right of it. And then when the fighting phase happens, we attack from left to right. So the bat would attack first, and then Aga would attack first, and then, you know, if I put Mihalina next, she'd attack after that, and so on. Now, what's interesting about this game is that when you attack, you don't get to choose who you attack. You attack in a direction, either left or right, and you don't get to choose who it is. And sometimes that can have a really major impact on the course of things in the battle. So if I put Mihalina here and the opponent then puts another bat to the right of her, I don't know if Mihalina is going to attack left and kill this bat or attack to the right and kill whoever's over there. So you have to take that into account with your strategy. The other thing that you have to take into account is that for the tactics, you don't get to choose who you affect. Instead, you affect the person, or the enemy, or the ally, the first one who can be affected by that tactic, starting from the right and going to the left. So in other words, let's say I wanted to confuse this bat. Confuse means that it gets summoning sickness and doesn't attack in the first round. I can do that right now, but then of course I'm forfeiting the ability to play somebody out onto the board. If the opponent plays out more creatures, and I really want to, confuse this bat to stop it from attacking, I can't anymore. I would end up confusing one of the later enemies that was placed, because it always goes from right to left when checking whom to impact. So like when you're using a tactic like Shield Ally, if I really want to shield her, I have to play this when she is the rightmost villager that is on the board, because otherwise if I play someone after her, I won't be able to choose to shield her anymore. Now, different weapons in this game have different abilities. The typical damage is the sword icon. That just means damage. So you can see my enemies, my people deal quite a bit of damage. This bat is rather pathetic by comparison. There are, however, a couple of special things that you can see. So these guys have a hammer. They see the hammer symbol. So blunt damage is like trample. If you deal damage to somebody and they're dead and you still have damage left over, that will splash essentially onto another enemy that is to your left or to your right. You can only trample through one enemy, so if the second enemy dies and you still have damage left over, that's it, you stop. But it can be nice for killing more than one little things at once. Now, I'd love to put this guy into battle, but remember, he's in the tactical side. So if I put him in, he'll have summoning sickness and won't actually attack in the first round, which is sad. The piercing damage, which is what you get if you wield a staff or a pike, is quite interesting. What it does is it actually puts you in front of the enemy that is currently last on the table, and you deal half of your piercing damage to the enemy. So when I put this guy in here, instead of going to the right of the bat, he's going to go to the left of the bat, and he's going to deal 7 damage to it, which actually kills it. So that's nice, and that's why I'm going to do that with my first play, because it kills the enemy, and now this guy's attacking first. So unless one of my opponents has piercing damage, this guy's going to get to murderlate something. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in Mihalina. So she has a lot of health, and she also has 5 shielding. Now, shielding is damage the enemy has to get through before they damage you. So if she gets hit for 4 points of damage this fight, she's going to be peachy keen, because it's just going to eat away from her shields. If Falibor got hit for 4 damage, he'd go to 11 to 15, and he would keep some wounds after the battle. Just like in any game, if you take damage in a fight, that damage sticks around after the fight is over. So you really want to try not just to win the fights, but to win them in high style, taking no damage if at all possible. Alright, well I've played my 2 cards, I can't play anymore. I put my shielded person in front of my non-shielded person, I'm ready to go, so I end my turn. Now the opponent is going to play a card from the tactical side, so it's going to have summoning sickness. I put out slow animations for the purpose of this introductory video, and they are extremely slow. I can't change the settings from here, can I? Sorry about that. So everything's going to stick for a while. That's not the game lagging, it's just because I put animations to slow so you can really inspect everything that's going on. Now, Aga here is extremely fragile. However, I'm going to have Falibor attack first, which will kill this bat, then Mihalina will attack, and she'll kill whatever the next thing is, and then Aga will attack. So I feel pretty safe about throwing her in here. But just in case, we're going to go ahead and shield this lady a little bit. I'm going to use the shield ally. So this guy is very shielded himself. And if you have shield yourself, you can apply that shield to other people, as long as, of course, you're in the tactical side. So this guy has 13 shield for himself. So he'll impart 13 points of shielding to Aga, which is really nice because she's normally a pretty fragile character. All right, I played my 2 cards. It's kind of random I got to play 2. I might have only been able to play 1. And now it's the opponent's turn to play some cards. Okay, so the opponent plays out a couple of bats, but I'm fine here because Falibor is going to kill this bat, Mihalina is going to kill that bat, Aga's going to kill this bat, so I'm feeling pretty safe about things. If I were to bring in one of my guys, they'd get hit by the next bat coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play this dude. He's got blunt damage, so he's going to potentially kill a couple of bats in one turn. And yeah, he's not going to get to attack in the first round of combat, but it's nice to have him there. And then we're going to pass, because I can't play any more cards. I can only play 1 card that round. So there's a hulking rat coming in to join the party. It only hits for 2, so I'm not too worried. But I'm going to go ahead and use the Confuse tactic. So what Confuse does is it gives summoning sickness to an enemy. But there's a couple of caveats. First, you can't choose which enemy you give it to. It will apply it to the first applicable enemy starting from the right and going left. And second of all, this number here tells me the highest level of the enemy that I can affect with this skill. So I can only confuse up to level 3 enemies. The level of a creature is in the bottom right-hand corner of the card. This hulking rat, for example, is level 1. Vistomir is level 3, and so on. Aga, for some reason, is level 5, so not all your villagers are necessarily the same level. But I'll go ahead and confuse this rat to stop it from attacking the first time. Alright, wow, that is incredibly slow for the card play. Alright, so this hulking rat comes in, it has 5 health, and deals 4 damage, and this guy comes in, it has 7 health and 2 damage, but it's summoning sickness because it came from the tactical board. Now, when the fight phase happens, we go from left to right and carry out these attacks. Again, you attack from left to right at random, although if you're on the very left, you are guaranteed to attack right. So that's an important thing to consider, because then you know exactly where you're attacking. It's nice to be on the edges. Here's the second fight phase. So now my guy attacks the rat all the way over here, and then she attacks the next rat to the right, and then Aga Tofu is going to attack the final rat. All the enemies are dead, and at this point, I win the challenge. Now, there's a couple things worth mentioning. If the opponent had any cards in the discard, anyone left on the table who still had a turn to go would actually just pound the cards that are in the discarded area. And if, after 2 rounds of fighting, there are still cards in both camps, you repeat the entire process from top to bottom. You have the initial deal, the optional reshuffle, the playing of cards to the board. You repeat all that stuff and have 2 fighting phases. And you repeat this until one side or the other is out of cards. So you don't just have like a slugfest slugging left and right over and over again until somebody dies. You do end up replaying things if 2 rounds of combat aren't enough. Anyway, you can see we got quite the haul here. Got some bird meat, we got some leather, some amber, we got some exotic fruits, and some, what is this, granite? So got tons of stuff. Again, you get pretty good rewards typically for checking out these ruins. And we also got 2 experience and 1 research point. So this helps us get advancement points, and this helps our villagers level up. The level up system in this game is universal, so everybody levels up at the same time. So like, from these guys going out and getting experience, my villagers back here in Boristinia town will level up as well. Now, my guys have 1 point of movement left over. They can't make it here because it takes 2 movement points to go in the forest, but we can inch closer to the spider's nest, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead also and change that setting for card animation time. Jesus Christ, that was way too slow. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and apply that, shall we? Okay. Alright, so now I've done everything I could in my village. My expedition went out and did some stuff. It's time to end the turn, so I click this button and my turn ends. And hey, didn't I say that the kids can just randomly grow up on turn 2? Well, that's what happens. There's actually quite a bit to talk about here. So when a kid grows up, you can have them become a warrior, a gatherer, called a worker, or a crafter. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can actually get a different class. And I recommend doing this if you get another option. Maybe not medics. You don't really need more than 1 medic, but pretty much anything other than medics is just better than your basic stuff. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and make a witch. Witches are super cool. I'm not going to talk about this, I guess that's a little bit advanced. But witches are awesome, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we lost a kid, got a witch, creatively named Witch. So now we got 5 people over here in Boristinia town. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and manage supplies for Boristinia town. Oh my god, I didn't have any fuel. Whoops, I actually screwed this up. So, I was supposed to, remember I told you I was going to get like 1 pack of vegetables and most of a pack of wood? Well, I ended up using all of my wood crafting these craft tools, and I didn't leave myself a fuel source. So my people are at half efficiency for crafting. Or for gathering. Whoops. Alright, you know what? I'm just going to burn the last bit of dryad wood just to get the party started here, although it's terrible and you really shouldn't do that. So yeah, now that we are actually burning fuel, we should be fine. Yes? Please tell me we're fine. We're not fine. I don't know. I guess maybe it's not until the next turn that we're fine. I have no idea. The point is, my people are gathering at half capacity because I forgot to leave the village with fuel to burn. Hilarious. In fact, why don't we switch this so that we get just wood, like a stack of wood next turn, so we're going to start using that for fuel and not worry quite yet about the vegetables. Okay, so, let's see, there's that. No food or fuel. Oh yeah, these guys didn't have any fuel, right. So there's these status updates you can get, and we'll ignore those for now. Let's go ahead and fight this spider nest. So here we approach the spider's nest. This is not going to give as good rewards as the ruin, but it's nice to clear out these nests so that the world doesn't just become more and more overrun with enemies. You can always fight things. Sometimes you can use alternative challenges here. Like here we can brew a poison and plant it in some bait. This is not a good option. Don't do this here when you're playing at home. But I'm going to use it to show you I think the final thing of this video, because this video is already kind of long. There are other types of challenges in this game besides fighting. There's actually a bunch. You can have fighting, physical, intellect, social, hunting, sickness. I mean, there's a lot. However, they all play by the same general rules, which is the whole thing about, you have an offensive hand and a tactical hand, and you can get a reshuffle, and you play things onto the board, blah, 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 all the exact same. But you'll notice that my stats are different. Like, everybody's health is different, their attack values are a lot lower, their tactics are different, they don't have, like, the confused tactics and stuff. And this is where the stat system of the game comes in. Basically, the actions are all the same in every type of challenge. Dealing damage, playing under the board, confusing, countering tactic, all that stuff. It's all the same in every type of challenge, but the statistic that determines how good your stat is different for each challenge. So here, and I'll show you in the help, this is actually a really, really good help topic that I highly encourage you to take a look at. It's the Cards Minigames Challenge Skills. So when you're fighting, it's very straightforward. Your damage determines your offense, your armor determines your defense, shielding determines your shielding, etc. But when you're doing a sickness challenge, your offense is determined by your will, your defense is determined by your health, your ability to give people a first action, rather than being given by stealth, is given by magic. Support skill is being given by the medic skill. You can see where this is. Like, the reason everybody's stats are different in this challenge is that a wholly different set of character traits is being used to determine those stat values. So that's why you may sometimes want to avoid alternate challenges, especially if you don't know what your character's stats are. But the advantage is this. In every challenge besides a fight challenge, wounds are not permanent. So if one of my characters takes damage, doesn't matter. They're peachy keen at the end of the fight. If one of these cards completely goes down to 0, doesn't make a difference. So you can go through the game fighting through every single challenge that you face. And in this particular video, I have a team of warriors. I started off with like a warrior-focused start, so I have a lot of warriors. That's probably how I'd play it, and that's what you'd want to do if you have a bunch of warriors. But you don't have to play a warriors game. You don't have to have a bajillion warriors. You can just have a few and have characters of other types and take a more non-combat approach through the game. The advantage of that is that when you take damage in the challenges, it's not permanent. So it's a little bit safer. The disadvantage is that when enemies on the map attack you, you don't get to choose your type of challenge. Like, I came into the spider's nest, so I got to choose to do cure or fighting. But if the spiders had attacked me, it would have had to have been a fight. So everybody has to fight. It's not as common that you'll have to do something other than fighting. Okay, well here my big damage dealer is my medic. She has the highest medic skill, so she's got a lot of damage in this fight. So she is someone I want to have on the board offensively, and she's in my offensive hand, so that's great. Now this person randomly has some stat, I don't even know what it is, that gives him leech, which is kind of cool. It's like an extra damage that also heals you. So this guy's going to deal 3 damage in combat, 2 normally, 1 from leech, and heal for 1 if he's been damaged. Alright, so the opponent only has 2 cards, because this is, a level 1 challenge. You saw the 1 skull next to it. It goes up to a maximum of 5 skulls. So I got 6 people to handle just 2 cards, but you can see, this guy deals 8 damage, which is like kills most of a person, and has 10 health, which if I didn't have this medic, I wouldn't even be able to do 10 damage. Now, you have to resist the urge in some of the non-combat challenges to put your best fighters out right away. Like, if I put Aga right away, she's just gonna get killed by this Cure Sickness. It's just gonna attack her. So I don't actually want to put her out there. A good strategy in the non-combat challenges is to use all the people who suck as meat shields, while you put your heavy hitter in the very back and have them deal damage over and over. It may need multiple rounds of card placement and resolving the fight phases to get the job done, but of course it's better than losing your highest hitter in the first round and really suffering every subsequent round. I'm going to try Counter Tactic. So Counter Tactic basically discards your card and discards a randomly selected tactic card from the opponent's hand. Now the catch is this: you can only discard cards up to your Counter Tactic skill. So if this card is higher than level 4, I'm going to end up wasting my card, but I'm going to try it anyway. Okay, this is higher than level 4, so that sucks. So what I'm going to do now is pass the turn because I can't play any more cards. And this one is going to come in, and it's got Summoning Sickness. It's a pretty heavy one. It hits for a little bit less than the first one, but it has a whopping 13 points a hit, 13 hit points. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to put out my Meat Shields. These guys don't attack in the first round, so they're the least useful to me. I'm going to put them out just to soak up hits, and I'm going to put this guy next. This guy, Thalabor, is my second best hitter. He deals 3 damage, and Aga is my heaviest hitter. She deals 10. So now we resolve. This thing's going to hit my guy for 8, Cadfan, and then that guy is going to deal damage to this Cure Sickness. Notice this one didn't actually get to go because it was Summoning Sick. Poor Cadfan dies, but now everybody's going to tickle the Sickness challenge with Aga dealing the finishing blow. There we go. Made it look easy, but you do have to pay attention to the card placement there. We got some Spider Silk, which is a very nice type of string from this nest. But we all got a lot more from the ruins that we did in the previous turn. So again, the nests you do to stop the world from being overrun, but you should keep an eye out for ruins because they typically have better loot. And we do get some experience and a flask for our trouble. Alright, so at this point, I think I'm going to call it. But you can see now some of the rules in Thea the Awakening and some of the things to keep in mind. I'm not going to continue this game, I don't think. Sad as I am to pass on a game where I got a witch on turn 2, which is amazingly good luck. I'm going to start a new game in the next video to show you some of the things to keep in mind when starting a new game, because this video, I basically took care of a lot of stuff before I started recording. There's actually quite a lot that goes on to making a new game and starting things off on the right foot. I'll show you that in the next video, and then we're going to do, in fact, a complete playthrough. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody.